Hi, everybody. Welcome to All the Forbidden Things. This is the show where we talk about all the things we're not talking about or ways that we are not talking about them, even with loved ones. Today, I am joined by Joanne Morton. We met at a networking event.
Yeah, Creative Mornings.
Creative Mornings. So, fellow creative person here. And we've hung out, become friends, each other out with some things. So, we are going to be talking about being unpartnered, either considering a life that would be without a romantic partner or making an active decision to do that, and then navigating different ways that plays out and how we meet our needs.
Yeah.
So we always start out with sort of a fun question to get us started on the format. What do you think is my favorite painting behind us?
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's a.
Okay, let me give us
So this is my friend Sherry Daniels' art. I'm gonna say. Oh, I'm just gonna say the one that's behind you.
You got it
Oh,
right.
yay!
Yeah, you'll let the audience see it again. And I think it's just the mood of it, the color scheme. I like the balance. It's evocative.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's probably my second favorite.
The flowers.
No,
the middle one. Yeah.
Okay.
Which do you think is mine?
I think probably the middle one.
I think you're right.
Yay! Oh my God! See, we know each other so much better than we think.
This is really only the third time we've probably seen each other in person after that initial meeting. So we knew.
She did read my cards one time, and we've had deep conversations.
Yes.
So I think we energetically bonded in that way. We can read each other.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. Sometimes you just know somebody, a kindred spirit, kindred soul, and that's and I think that's something to remind yourself that trust that, because it doesn't always happen either.
No, it's so true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you want to give us a little bit of like a context as to what your romantic situation is and kind of what it's been without getting into some of our questions, but
sure.
Kind of just,
Yeah. So I've been single my entire life. So I'm 60 years old and I've never had anybody call me a girlfriend. I've never had a boyfriend, girlfriend. I've had relationships, lovers, sexual relationships with a couple of men. I've had one night stands with, men and women. And I've had a lot of very strong female friendships that were very close in my 20s and my 30s, that we were like inseparable for years. And some of the, we stopped being that close, sometimes we had to break up, and sometimes life choices, just kind of you separated. But I've had some very, very close female friendships that were very life-changing. But yeah, so that's pretty, single my entire life. I'm 60. No, never been married. People often, when they ask me that, I'm like, never been married? No. And they sometimes look at me like, really? I'm like, really?
People do that. I know, like, I have a fair amount of unmarried friends of all ages, and they always say like people are so weird about it. I mean, they're kind of weird about it with me too. But
I know. Well, I always said I was never going to get married unless I got a European passport out of the deal.
Otherwise, what's the point?
Right, exactly. I want something real, that I can use in the real world.
Something tangible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. All right. Well, let's start out with I'm going to take a guess at if you have been or are actually looking for a romantic partner, right? So how intentional the choice is, or like how if you would like that in your life. So I already know through conversations we've had that you are actively happy about choosing to be not romantically partnered in a life partner way with somebody. but I'm going to take a guess at like how that might have evolved over your life, because obviously as women we are not raised to think that. Um, I think I know that you had said when you were younger, when you were in college, you were writing diaries or whatever about, finding someone. I would think that as like a young girl, you probably thought about it as like a thing that would happen at some point, but it wasn't like actively pressing on your mind. Like, I don't think you were the type of person who was planning out your wedding and all of that. I think it was just like, oh yeah, that'll eventually occur, whatever. And then, yeah, maybe in college you felt more like, well, this is the moment and this is whatever. But then as relationships developed, or the like different things took form or didn't take form, I feel like you probably over time realize, well, this is pretty aligned with me, or the reasons that these haven't formed in certain ways are because that's aligned with me. And then, like, I think that you would probably appreciate, I mean, we have talked about this a fair amount, so this is an educated guess, but you would appreciate the company of somebody, but not necessarily the constants of them being around all the time and sharing your living space and everything being up in your life. Honey.
That just freaks me out.
So,
but at the same time,
yeah, is that sort of a correct like projection?
Yeah, it is. It is. It's. I mean, it's just so weird. I mean, I don't know how to. I mean, it's just so you as a young person, you're given this idea of what a family looks like, right? And so that's all that you know. And then the moment you go away to college and you start taking new classes and you meet different kinds of people, I think that opens your eyes to what's different, right? And and I also think as a young woman, we are kind of put in this role of being sexualized for the male. So if you're, so you've got, you look cute, you do all this, you go out to girls' night, you drink, da 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 da. You got to find a boyfriend, and then if that's not happening, you're like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Am I not pretty enough? Am I not this enough? Da 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 da. Or am I too smart? I'm not, I'm not acting, I don't play the dumb girl.
Powerful.
Yes, and so you have all these mixed messages and you're always going, like there's something wrong with me. So I think that's, I mean, again, no regret, but I feel like if only I had spent so much of my life, my 20s mostly, thinking, oh, I'm missing something, and I forced myself, to lose my virginity to the first person that I felt like, and it was like, I have, again, no regrets, but at the same time, it didn't have to be like that, and it's so. But I have a memory of when I was living at my parents' house still as a kid. I have this memory of like a fantasy in my head about my relationship, and I was I was married to a man, but I was like his second wife.
Interesting.
And so I didn't have children, so I was the second wife. And I thought that was kind of an interesting.
So that was like an active fantasy. Yeah. Where it was like, that would be really cool.
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah. So actually, what we're finding out is not that you want to be unpartnered. You are polyamorous. You don't have enough people.
Yeah,
right.
Five. Yeah. So I don't know. No, I don't think the other wife was in line. I think the wife was gone out of the picture.
Oh,
it wasn't a two-wife person.
After.
Yeah.
I got really excited.
But I do. I think I did tell you about my a little weird polyamory friendship in my first love affair. The first people that I really fell in love with were two guys and a girl, and we all had some little intimacy with each other, and I loved them. I mean, and I've always thought your first real love really guides the rest of the loves of your life, in my opinion.
Oh,
So the way I felt with them, how comfortable I felt with them, how much fun we had, the conversations, the trust, I think even the feeling of just belonging to people. We belonged together.
Yeah.
But of course, we were really young. I was only 22, 23. And in my heart, because I was living in Minneapolis at the time, I wanted to move to New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first 9 years of my adult life living away from my parents from 20 to 29, even though I was living in Minneapolis, Chicago, and San Francisco, the whole time I'm like, I want to move to New York. I was not happy being where I was. I just made do. I just did what I did, but I wanted to live in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing that I realized. I was never going to find anybody to settle down in Chicago or in Minneapolis because I don't want to live here. Unless I met that person who was on the same track as me, let's move to New York, then that would happen. But that didn't happen, right? So I think that's one reason. And even though, like you're saying, my 18-year-old self was like in college, am I going to get married? Who am I going to get married to? But I wasn't pining away for it. I think I wanted love. And I think my first 9 years, again, I wanted to not feel like a freak if I wasn't having sex, because everybody's having sex. So I always tell people, especially women, if you're not being that sexual in your 20s, good for you if you are, safe sex. But if you're not, wait till you're 40.
Yeah.
Better in your 40s.
Yeah, no, well, the thing about being in your 20s and also as a teenager, is a lot of women, unfortunately, were socialized to bond over men and getting men. And I remember like so much of my life just hanging out with girls at brunch. What's going on in your love life? Are we gonna, even swiping together? All kinds of things that just revolve around. And there's so much of your worth and your value that's put on whether you're going to be a good wife, whether men want you, whether they're attracted to you. I was taught that like men so sexualize women that you have to like play this little game I never figured out of keeping them away. And then that gives you the inherent message that if you're not being sexualized, then something is desperately wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like whenever I've been sexually rejected, it is like one of the dark moments. It is so horrible. And then I also feel like I've had problems where if I'm over sexualized, the person's like, oh, I love it because I became very hypersexual as a young person. And then I was never the girlfriend, though. I could never hack getting them to want to be in a relationship with me. I couldn't do the wifey part, or there was one or the other or whatever. And but it's not just that like our own internal monologues are set up for that. It is challenging because that is how females are commonly, probably in both our generations, bonding as young people. And it's kind of the primary goal.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it's true. A lot of times young women will start, some women will just spend their time talking about men.
Yep.
And I don't enjoy it. I don't really enjoy it. Plus, especially if you're going to talk about them, not only about who you like or you're attracted to, but then if you're also going to start bashing them.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why do you want to talk bad about the people that you're intimately involved with?
Right. Then just don't be involved with them. It's either like there's the whole life cycle of you're either like out dating and everybody's deciding whether or not he's good enough for you and then secretly judging you behind your back if they don't think that he is or blah, blah, blah. And then you have the relationship part where you're always somehow end up talking about what's going on in the relationship and potential problems in the relationship and if he's not doing enough and how to deal with your feelings. And then at the end of a relationship, you spend months talking about how awful he was.
That is
trying to get dolled up for the next guy.
And that is why I'm not in relationships. It's a podcast.
I actually, that leads me into another question I want to guess on your behalf, which is that like, what is your least favorite thing about relationships? And I would say maybe it's the expectations on behavior or actions or like, not that you clearly are emotionally available, but it's more like the practical application of like, you're expected to be here or there, or you have to show up as a unit to places, or there's the like maybe like merging of the lives part that is least appealing to you
Yeah.
in a relationship.
Yeah, I know. I first of all, if I were to meet, if I were, they always say you meet that person to be in some kind of relationship. You're not looking,
Yeah.
so I'm not anti. I just, I don't know if it's a priority for me, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing. It's not the, I'm not a, it's not my priority, first of all. But to answer your question, I've had friends who've been partners, and they're great. I love them both, right? But their names are one, Bobby and Derek, Carl and Angela, no, 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 like that. So,
Yes.
and even when I had a dog, sometimes people would call me, I'm like, I'm not Joanne and Zena, I'm just Joanne and that's,
Yeah.
we're not, I don't want to be paired with another person in my
Yeah.
name. Even my parents, Ken and Mary.
Yeah.
I'm Joanne. And I always want to have a name. And then if you're so often when you're with somebody and they're talking about my wife, my husband, why don't you just say,
Their name.
Susan, my wife, or Tom, my husband, or whatever. But
Yeah.
I won't. They don't give a name,
Yeah,
so
that's so
you
true.
lose your identity.
Yeah, that's so true.
So you lose your identity. You become obtusum. So you're no longer your own solo person. And I really love my freedom.
Yeah.
I love my freedom, and I think I want to give people space to be who they are, and I want that space too. And sometimes just with family, with my immediate family, my sisters, when we spend time together, we can definitely we can spend a week together, and we get along because we know each other's zones, and we both relax the same way and things like that. But you take people for granted. And so, if to choose a lifetime partnership with somebody, you both have to be on the same page to want to continue to make the effort to do the work on not only yourself, but the relationship. Because in that relationship, there's three entities: there's you, there's me, there's us.
Yeah.
And each one of those entities has to be taken care of and nurtured and respected. So that's just a lot. And I think also one other reason why I think in the back of my head why I never really, thought I could be in a relationship or, maybe wanted to be in a relationship, kind of both, I'm not kidding, is I don't want to put my BS to somebody else.
That's very hard.
I don't,
Yeah.
I mean, and it's going to happen. I don't want you to have to deal with my bullshit or all this unbaggaged stuff. And so when you get in a relationship with somebody, you not only have to take on their stuff, sometimes their families have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that families have a lot of stuff. And my family, my immediate family, thank God, we've got stuff, but it's very tame in comparison to some people's stuff. But, beyond that, the cousins, there's a lot of stuff. So why would I have my little guilty pleasure. I love reading those on Board Panda or Reddit, the Am I the Asshole?
Yes, I love
And they talk about these mother-in-laws and
oh my
fathers-in-laws.
God, it's
and
always such a freak show.
I know, and I'm just
so
like,
bad.
now I'm like, no, I mean, so I think I live vicariously through them, But yeah, it's just like it's just immature people who aren't, so I mean, that's kind of how I guided it. I just don't want to put anybody else with my stuff, on a full-time basis for the rest of your lives.
Yeah, it's such a big commitment. How do you think relationships have played out for me kind of on those different points? And I will clue you in that I had a high school boyfriend. We were saving ourselves for marriage, and it was like so intense. We didn't even like kiss. It was a very religious thing, but he was very sweet to me. And then I had a boyfriend in college I was in love with, a French boyfriend who was kind of an asshole, nothing against the French. And and then I've had some significant relationships, some short shorter lived and one longer, really negative relationship. So I've actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it's probably more than one hand, the like official relationships, but in my mind, it doesn't really feel that way. So what do
And
you think?
how long is a relationship?
The longest relationship was over 2 years. The shortest relationship, and I will actually call this a relationship because we were so intense about each other and we had known each other, was 4 months.
Yeah,
but I would not consider something to really, really be a relationship. I mean, it's about how you define it, I guess, which is another thing I'd be interested to talk about. But like until, 6 months, 8 months, or something.
And how old are you now?
36.
36, right? Okay. So ask me the question again.
How do you think I have experienced what we're talking about in terms of sharing baggage or like merging with people's lives or families? Like, what do you think my negative maybe experiences have been, or what I'm averse to or not?
Well, I feel like most people, and you included, and seem willing to have that be a part of the relationship. Like not holding, that's what it is. So, and it's worth it. It's worth the compromise. It's worth the, that you can make these compromises. So I think, let me just have my, so you're willing to make the compromise, but based on the fact that you've had, I'm going to just say many relationships, just because, it's not, and you've never been married.
Yes.
So I'm going to say that there's something, I think you might enjoy having different lengths of relationships with different people, because that's how you get to keep your own freedom. Because I think you value freedom too, and value your space and your choices to do what you want to do in your life. You have a vision for what you see to do and how you can make it happen. So I think that's part of what you're looking for, and you want a partner who allows you to do that, but gives you the support and the intimacy that also can give you that. And I think you're willing to be diverse in how you find that. You're not you're not just fixated on one type of relationship or one type of person. So
wow,
yeah,
that's very astute. So I have a friend who said, I said to her once, I think I'm going to have many lovers over the course of my life. Many loves, I think I actually said. And then when I was going through a really bad breakup, she was like, you remember you said that to me? You got to remember it means many breakups too. And I was like, didn't think that one through. But I do. I think people come in and out of one's life for various things. And I think that a love relationship shouldn't be forced to be extended beyond what its natural organic nature is. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't need tending to while it is alive, but it has its own life cycle. And if you artificially extend the life cycle, it can be damaging. So that is one of my concerns about marriage. But I do appreciate for people, and maybe loosely in my head, the idea of a life commitment with someone if I, really love them and just kind of want to be around till then. I do appreciate, and I listened to something from Alan Watts about love recently. Oh my God, he keeps popping up on my YouTube, and I'm like, just talk to me forever.
Be my lover.
Yeah, exactly. Please rise again. So what if I was like, I'm married to Alan Watts? And you were like, I'm open.
I'm open. Share him.
So he was talking about how love really does kind of similarly, it has its own life to it, and you have to be in flow with it. But marriages are really valuable. They've just been mistaken because people think that they have to be lined up with love all the time. And I think it's completely appropriate if you've decided to life partner with someone that for periods of time, they do feel like a fucking roommate.
Yeah.
I think it's okay if at times they're more like a friend. I think it's okay. I think when people put these expectations on what marriage is supposed to be or life partnerships are supposed to be. It's they've decided at what point in the dynamic are they going to freak out that something is wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that one should have to do that. Now, then you get into the question of, well, let's imagine that most people have sort of a continuous flow of romantic and certain emotional needs and sexual needs, which I want to get into. And so then what do you do when, especially if you're monogamous and the one person you've chosen is the only option to fill those needs, is checked out on what you originally kind of wanted from each other or what you've given them that role to do. So even if you're okay with the fact that they're not showing up that way, what the hell do you do with all the rest? And I think that could actually be answered in how we might think about how you would if you were single.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you were talking, there was a couple times in my life when I had these really great, friendships with women. I wished we could get married.
Yes.
And form a household together.
Yes.
Or roommates that work really well. Yeah. But you can't pose that because I don't want to be in a room. I'm not interested in sharing a bedroom with you.
Yeah.
Let's just share a house together. Let's just put our some income together. Let's put some build some wealth together instead of by ourselves. But that's weird.
Right. And I've actually had a few female friends be like, I wish we could do that.
You can.
Yeah, it's true.
We can, we can, but but you have to pick that person, the right person, right? It has to be somebody you want to, commit to. But it's like, you have to, but it's just, they would just people would look at you weird or your commune,
Yeah.
But if you have clear, intentional ways of managing everything, if you approach it in a way that's, expectations are put out there, because then, if you're living with a group of people, they could all have different, whatever partners, their needs can be met in different ways. And that way, if you're having a bad day, you don't have to take it out on your best friend because you have other people. And that good marriage should be like that anyway. But then, men can't have women friends, women can't have male friends, which is BS too. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just ask you this outright. How do you attend to, and I mean, I could answer the same for periods in which I am, because I think of myself as unpartnered, even though I have somebody in my life who's been there for a while now. And I have other people in my life. Like I date and, I actually have lots of people, but in my mind, I think of myself as if I didn't. But I guess, how do you approach things like sexual needs or that feeling of I am sad about something and I kind of just wish I could cuddle up against someone, or I wish I could call someone when I'm unsafe, right? Some of those things that people look for specifically in romance. What are ways that you've related to that? And also, what are ways that you might like to relate to that or haven't yet figured out that you would want to relate to?
Right. I mean, there is, you always, if you have a pet, that always helps.
Yeah.
So I had a dog for many years when I lived in New York, but, and then when I got rid of her, that's when I had, my first kind of whatever, relationship. But, I don't want a pet right now. So that's not going to work. There's a couple things. One, you nurture friendships.
Yeah.
And I do have a lot of, women friends and male friends, and that I can call up. And sometimes you don't want to, so you kind of go, who do I want to talk to? I don't really want to talk to anybody. Well, then you're not alone. You can't, if there's nobody you don't want to talk to that you can reach out to, then you have to own up to that. And I think it's so important to be alone.
Yeah.
And to feel sad alone. I think it's so important to be sad alone, to be happy alone. And sometimes I've traveled by myself across the country, so I've spent a lot of alone time with myself, and in really beautiful spaces. And there's sometimes like, oh my gosh, I wish, I could share this with somebody.
Mhm.
But if I shared it with somebody, it'd be a completely different experience.
Yeah, and you'd be affected by how they were experiencing
Uh-huh.
it, and then you might even limit like what you would point out to what you would think they would like.
Yeah. So and that's there. So there's both, but I think I am. I'll never forget the first Christmas I spent by myself.
Mhm.
It's very humbling. You're like, oh my gosh, and then I spent a lot of Christmas by myself,
Mhm.
and then say first birthday by yourself. I was
Mhm.
living in San Francisco. I was 24 or 20. I don't know which year it was, but it was like really like I was all alone for my birthday. You know,
Mm.
and I think I probably got a phone call from my parents, but it was long distance back then, so maybe not.
They're like, she'll be fine. She's
Yeah,
great alone.
after 9 o'clock, we'll give you a call when it was, cheaper rates. Oh God. But yeah, yeah. Oh, you never called your parents during the day. What are you calling? Long distance. They would get so upset. And then, and then you were so daring when you were like, I don't care. I'm calling you. I need to talk to you right now. I'm having a boy trouble. Your friends who live in another state, you screwed it. Then you'd get this really expensive long distance bill. But anyway, back in the day, it's so crazy. But yeah, so I think that's my journey as a person is to just be okay being alone,
Hmm.
you know?
Mhm.
And I think you have to be okay being alone with other people too. And sometimes when you're with people, you can't you got to feel that loneliness with them too.
You mean like if you're cohabitating with
Yeah.
someone?
Uh-huh.
That is such a key ingredient, I
Mhm.
think, in any like happy partnership. And
Yeah.
I think is one of the harder things for people to do. Because I think one reason that a lot of people like to get married, especially if you get right out of the gate or whatever,
Uh-huh.
is because you like the idea that you'll never really be alone. And then that means your partner has to be working on, you have to sort of, and maybe sometimes artificially, be bonded to each other or
Uh-huh.
doing things together. I have definitely had that insecurity when I lived with someone once for about 8 months at the end of our relationship. Surprise, surprise. Um, but yeah, that was hard for me. The idea that he would want to be in the same room and not engage with me or like watch something together or eat together, or like he would like to go on the patio and have a smoke and a beer, and I didn't really enjoy that, and he would be like miffed that I didn't participate in his ritual, right? And I've also heard, I don't know if it was John Gottman or someone, but saying that like you have to be able to reject a partner and they have to be able to reject you, and that has to be able to happen frequently, and you come back to each other for
Uh-huh.
a relationship to be healthy.
Oh, I
But
like
yeah,
that. That looks good. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, being alone around other people.
Yeah.
And that is so, people think of that as like a personal hell, like, oh my God, being around so many people and still feeling alone. But I think it's just a matter of balance. Is it
Mhm.
kind of something that you're
Right.
able to do intentionally, or are you always hermiting away or internally emigrating? Right.
Right. Yeah. It's about everything's a balance. Yeah. But we die alone.
Yeah,
You
it's
may have
true.
you may have people around you, but you are still the only one dying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I also don't think I wanted the lifestyle of a married
Mm.
person based on my experience growing
Mhm.
up in the Midwest with a two-family household. Dad went to work, mom stayed home, part-time jobs.
Mhm.
My senior year she got a full-time job, and so I had to cook dinner every night. No, that's not what I
Did
mean.
you have a brother and he didn't?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
no, no, no. I had a younger sister, so I was the older sister.
Uh-huh.
She would, set the table sometimes. But yeah, so that was just that lifestyle, and it was the suburbs. And remember, I wanted to live in New York City,
Mhm.
single, socialite, whatever. But that there's nothing there, work, home, cut the grass, church, work, home, cut the grass, work. I mean, that's just not my lifestyle. And my parents were married for 60 years until my mom's death, and happily married. I think they, my mom actually was the one that sort of, when she moved back to the small town, she was the one that told me one time where all of her women friends from high school, whatever, all they did was sit around and bitch about their husbands.
Mhm.
And she didn't. Granted,
Mhm.
my dad's not perfect, but that's between him and her,
Yeah.
And so it's like, just because that just doesn't make any sense. And I was like, oh, okay, that's one thing I do respect about you, mom,
Yeah. Yeah.
because that's just disrespectful.
Well, and it poisons you towards the
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just didn't want to be with one person my entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I
I
mean, on
get it.
one hand, it could be a beautiful thing to be in your 20s and evolving your sexual intimacy relationship until, and it happens, but I wanted,
Well, I think the thing is, in order for a marriage to work for decades and decades, and for people to think like, oh, this is going to be the rest of my life, you have to be a person who is easily able to merge. First of all, could be the one category. So you have more flexible goals, or you have a more traditional set of goals of like how you want to experience things, and it's easier for you to put that puzzle piece with, it's a fairly compatible puzzle piece with putting together, or you are willing to make sacrifices, and significantly so, and are very fine about that, in order to alter your puzzle piece at all times in order to match another puzzle piece, right? So
right,
if you're a very specific person, very independent, very free spirited, want a bunch of things in life, you cannot be that individual and naturally be paired with another person who, especially if you're going to end up probably being attracted to someone similar to you for the entirety of your life organically. You are going to have to negotiate and make choices and sacrifices about how you're expressed, where you go, what you do, and some people are really fine and willing to make that choice. And I think you and I both probably have really struggled with that, with like, I'm okay with it being for a period of time. But the idea that I would be saying to you, I promise you, I will always find a way to negotiate so that we end up together at any cost to me. I can't say that to someone's face and feel authentic about it.
yeah. John Paul Sartre
Mm-hmm.
and Simone de Beauvoir,
Mm-hmm.
I've always admired. That's the relationship they want, because they were together they were soulmates, but they didn't live together. They
Mm-hmm.
partnered with other people. They had time, but if either one of them said, "I need you," they would come.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I want. That person that I can depend on if I need it,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I would only need it if I needed it, not,
Mm-hmm.
I need to go to Home Depot with you,
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So I've always kind of admired relationships like that. And there's, I'm sure it was highly dramatic as creatives are,
Mm-hmm.
but I think if that's what going in on, and that's, you can't change people. You
No.
can't put your expectations on them,
No.
and so I've never been somebody who likes, don't put your expectations on me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be your best friend. I can't be this,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also very, and this is where, so that first relationship I was telling you about, I kind of came to realize that when we stop needing each other, when you don't need each other anymore, the relationship is over. And
Oh, I was going to say it becomes a slightly different relationship.
well, but like, if I don't need you anymore, and
Huh.
not for a fact that you're not, it's just like, we've gotten what I needed from, and that need might be for 20 zillion years.
Yeah, yeah.
But if I don't need what you're offering anymore, then I can't force that need. I can't want, I mean,
Right. So, okay. So I disagree with that statement literally, but I think we might probably agree on what you mean. So when I think need, and this is very pop psychology of me right now, but like a lot of people will say that the best relationships are when you start needing them and you want them. I think what you're talking about is a fundamental purpose to the relationship.
Yeah.
Not so much that like you aren't okay on your own and you require someone else to be there, but that there's a symbiosis. And if there's something that is no longer creating a symbiotic relationship, or there's nothing there to bond with, then why would you try to keep that alive like a ghost? But I do think on the point of like, I'm trying to think, there's a relationship in my life right now where I think I needed this person, and in a way that I don't know if a therapist would sign off on or not, but they brought out something in me that had died, and they brought it back to life, and they like brought some fire back and personality back and added some positivity into my life. And for a period of time, I literally don't think I would have gotten that without them.
I agree with that.
And now I am starting to almost like mature a little bit to the point in which what they were offering me in that thing is no longer something that I need them for, but I have enough of it now that it is somewhat self-sustaining. But I have noticed that I'm at an interesting point where I sometimes panic, like, oh my God, what if we go away then? But actually, in the meantime, I have fallen in love with their company, and I have become attached to their presence and enjoying that more. But I see them in a completely different light, and I think they see me in a different light. Like over time, the less that I feel that we needed each other.
Well, that's just because your needs change.
Oh, interesting.
So if you have different, your needs are always changing. If it's just simple, a child needs their mother for, to birth them, and then they need them to feed them. Then they need them. They're different needs for them. And then the needs of that child change. So they no longer need the mother in the same way.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I guess there is still a need there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with needing something from somebody. And I love needing people. I say this loving. I love being able to use people.
Yeah.
Use me for what I have. Let me use you and see what we can create together.
Yeah.
That's not manipulative,
Yeah, kind of it's like a dirty word these days, but it's not, because it's also dishonest to act like you don't need people.
Yeah. Oh.
And people that I know who are happily unpartnered, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years or older than me and above, are like, your main thing that you're going to need to figure out in life is friendships and community. Like, if you have friendships, if you have people around you that you can rely on, like, you need people you can rely on.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that one dedicated person who might go away at any point in time, then you need to have a whole network of people to fill that in.
Yeah.
Or at least a really good friend.
Yeah. I think that's really important as a whole. I think everybody really, we've lost that. You don't have to have a gang of 20 people that you just see at parties. But I think it's really important to have a good core of 5 or 6 people and nurture those friendships. But of course, as a single person, some of them are in partnerships.
Right.
So
they're your person, but you might not be theirs.
Right.
Yeah. That is tough. I have come across that as well.
Yeah. So, but I feel like the friends I have who are partners, they're really good partnerships, and they're partnerships that I admire, and that I do admire them. So I feel like, when I've been around women who complain about their husbands, I don't tend to hang out with them so much.
Yeah.
Because I'm not interested,
Right. Well, and then they've probably made a lot of the unhappiness probably comes from certain things that are ultimately going to prove that your lives are incompatible with them anyway.
Yeah. I know. I think that's my biggest, it's so sad when, just talk about women, men probably, but I'm just women, where they do sacrifice so much to be in a couple relationship, and then to add a family to it. It's such a sacrifice. And
so often it doesn't fulfill.
No. It's no, it doesn't. It can't. Yeah, because children grow up and go away, and so yeah, it's really really crazy that we've created this way to create people, but at the same time, it's changing.
It is.
It's
Yes.
changing big time, more and
Yeah,
more.
it is.
I mean, it's everything is changing fast.
Yeah.
Everything, and so I think that's where we just have to continue to ask the questions, be grounded, and masturbate.
Yeah. So, okay, that brings me to a good point. Is I want to take a guess at, and I already know the answer to this on some level, but like,
my face
how
is
do
gonna get
you?
red.
So is mine. How do you attend to your sexual and intimate needs? Like, and so I know that you've admitted to me that you masturbate. So do I. We were both like, we masturbate even when we're in like with people. And I'm like, yeah, of course.
I know.
Sorry, I know I'm outing you.
That's okay.
But
you can out me. That's
but,
okay. I think it's our media is so sexualized, and our and I even it's so and there it's always with two people together. Sometimes we do some masturbation scenes, but not that often, but not as often as it happens in real life. Let's say that, and so but so I think, and sometimes when you see people masturbating on screen, it's like they're shaming them. Oh, or, you're sick, you're perverted, and that's what it used to be up until, don't touch yourself, don't touch yourself, don't touch yourself. That's what they told everybody, the little kids, all little boys, don't touch yourself. So of course they want to touch themselves. So of course there's time and a place to do it, because we don't live in a society where we need to have live sex everywhere. It'd be a lot happier place if we did, because then it wouldn't be so taboo, but that's another story. But I didn't become sexually active until I was 21, and it wasn't a really great experience. But I started as I try, I didn't. I mean, just didn't have a lot of encounters with whatever other reasons, and I'm actually okay with that. But when I was in my late 20s, trying to find how to masturbate, because I've touched myself, but I never had an orgasm, and so how do you have an orgasm? So we didn't have ChatGPT or internet, like there's sex toy stores, but that's like So I ended up going to a gay bookstore, gay and lesbian bookstore, sex shop kind of thing. And I bought my very first vibrator.
Yeah.
A pink one. I really wish I would have kept it, but whatever. But it was just those really long stick ones.
And it was the head?
No, it was just long and stick.
Oh.
It wasn't even did not look like a penis.
No, I mean like the head, like the not penis looking head, the like really round.
It had a point. It had like a little round point. I mean,
but it wasn't. It was small. It wasn't like the kind that looks like a machine with a handle and like a round top.
No, I mean, I'll have to go online and find a picture of it, because I really wish I would have kept it. But I think I tossed it because, one, I tossed away a lot of stuff. I've been traveling and stuff, but I just didn't need it. I mean, I guess I don't need to save it. Whatever. That was stupid. I'm not a hoarder. So I bought it, but I also bought a magnet at the same time. And I still have the magnet, a refrigerator magnet. So that refrigerator magnet is like my,
Yeah, that's
right. And it took C batteries. Oh. It was a battery operated dildo. And so I used that for many, many, many years. And then when I moved to New York in 1994, probably like a year later, I went up to Provincetown with I one time identified as a lesbian, but I realized I should have identified as an artist. So I'm not. But I was identifying as a lesbian. I worked at Dyke TV. We went up to Provincetown, Rhode Island, or Massachusetts rather, to for something. And up there, someone told me about the Hitachi magic wand. And they have this thing that's like this attachment called the G-spotter. And I went to the store and I bought one. It was like an $80 purchase, or maybe $50. It was 1995. I spent a lot of money on this, and you plug it into the wall. I've had one ever since.
Wow.
1995 to 2025.
Can you send me the link?
I will tell you. You just look it up. Hitachi Magic Wand G Spotter. I've gone through 3. Now they're actually, you charge it with the adapter, but then you can unplug it so it's now no longer the cord. Because that was always
I'm imagining you're having to get close to the side, and also I have this horrible vision of being electrocuted.
Well, okay,
like hooked up to the socket.
Okay, so I took it to England with me.
No,
because
I don't like this story.
I was there for 2 weeks. I was gonna, well, I'm gonna masturbate while I'm there, and I brought the extensor thing, like the power, and it burned it out. It broke it. Mm-hmm. Fuck. I was like, dang it. Issue. So I had to go back and buy a new when I got back to the States. But yeah, so I've gone through there. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's just, and I've had it with partners too. Like, mm-hmm. So it's amazing. But the way it gets you, for me, and what I like about masturbating is, as an artist, I use affirmations and visualization, and I really like. There's a book by Barbara Carrellas, Urban Tantra, and so it talks about sex with people, sex with yourself, and so I've looked a lot about how to have sensual, sexual, spiritual sex, and so when I have these, sometimes I do it just to relax, or sometimes I'm bored, but sometimes I do put some intention and ritual with it. And that is really powerful. And I like, and that's what I'm telling myself. I actually don't want to be in a intimate relationship with another person again, unless it is a spiritual, intentional relationship that we can go in and really talk about and use our bodies and our arousals to actually, connect with the higher power. So I never did this with a person that I felt comfortable with, but there is this Om meditation where I went to a workshop, just a talk. We didn't see it in person. This woman has this method where, as the woman is laying down, her partner, male or female, will like just be masturbating using the finger and listening to this music and this whole intention. So the whole idea is that the person who is pleasuring the woman is also experiencing the pleasure through her pleasure. And I'm just like, that's like kind of cool, having sex for more than just, instant gratification to release the itch.
Yes.
Is not what I want anymore. And so for many years, I was chasing the itch, chasing it. Yeah. And it was, didn't.
What do you think changed it for you, did you just develop such a profound relationship with yourself and with that spirituality that you evolved beyond like the itch in your own, you created that, evolved beyond it, and now you want a higher bar? Or were there other things in life that might have altered it as well, that you just kind of naturally came to a place where like it just wasn't, it was a different relationship?
That's fun, interesting. So I think what really made it change was leaving a metropolitan area. Because once I came down to Savannah, the market for men, for me and women, changed. Yeah. I mean, super beautiful, lovely. I've had some little, crushes. I used to have a lot more crushes in my 20s, but I've had a little bit of crushes. I'm like, I'm not really crushing on you. I just think you're cool. But I don't want a family. I don't want to be, I don't want to be a step parent. I don't want to be in a town where everybody dates each other. I've never really, I've been, it's just like, so I think being here has made me just like, well, if I don't want to date anybody here. So right there. So that's probably, I think, and maybe that's why I came here too, when I came here, because when I left New York, I was 45, and I had, my first 5 years in my 40s were really fun. I just had some great men in my life, and it was just, I was starting out my artist career painting. I was really just coming alive as a woman, as an adult sexual woman, and it felt really good. And then so good that I left the city that I loved, because I think New York was my lover. New
Yeah.
York was my, I could see the Empire State Building sometimes and like I could be having sex with the Empire State Building and I'm so I love New York. And I think there's other people who never have a relationship in New York because the city, you have a relationship with the city.
Yeah.
So then I came here and, and it's a very homogenized, moms and dads city, lots of families and it's, and it's sweet, but it's not my thing, and so yeah, every encounter I've had here have just been people passing through.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're not the only person I've talked to who said
that. So and that's, and I had a friend who lived in Miami for a while and he said that was the same thing. It was just you meet these great people but they're not living there. It's like they're just on vacation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun, but you can't that just gets a little lonely, like one night stands are fun, but they're also lonely.
Yeah. Well, and because you don't have enough rapport with the person typically, unless they're this very passionate artist type, that you're going to have some kind of spiritual or emotional or a higher level experience.
So, yeah. And then as I age, it's everything changes about your whole body, it's just interesting. So now I'm like I haven't kissed anybody in probably 7 or 8 years, like really kissed anybody. I'm like, that's going to be weird to have a kiss. But then at the same time, that first kiss is the best, It's the best. And to have first kisses, they're really fun, So I don't foresee me never having a kiss again, but I also I don't really there's no certainty in anything.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no certainty. I always remind myself I never thought I'd ever leave New York. I spent my whole time, most of my life trying to get there, and now I'm not there.
Yeah.
So that's unnerving in a way because you want some things, but I feel like my art's and I think that's the other reason why I've never really been linked to anybody, even, because I've had thought about like, what if this person I had stayed together? Would I be creating the work that I'm creating now?
Yeah.
If I'd been in a relationship with somebody? And, I think I like having muses more than partners, because I think there's sometimes as an artist, I need to be my first priority.
Yeah. Or the art is.
Or the art's the priority. Yeah.
I want to take a guess on what is your favorite thing about, let's say, a muse, because you brought that up. What is your favorite thing about having somebody in your life? I already kind of know the answer to this because we have talked about it before, but I think the inspiration of getting a look into somebody else's life and the way they approach life and engaging with them, honestly similar to how you would engage with art, and then they kind of inspire you back, but where you have this like intimate and emotional connection to it and you're energetically aligned, but it doesn't have like all those sort of like expectations and weighed down and all the rules, but it's just being connected with someone else's energy and enjoying what they're bringing to the table, and then like having that intimacy and excitement and inspiration. But yeah, what is your favorite part of that? What do you enjoy about it?
I've had two just such special, oh my God, such special men. Oh my gosh. And I think about it. They make me laugh. We can hang out together and do silly things, just watch TV or watch a movie or just have just no nonsense conversation, a distraction. They're distracting me from my work. However, this distraction isn't too much of a distraction.
Yeah.
So I'm not, because they got their lives they got to go do. They got to go do their thing. They got their friends, but we have a consistency. So it's not like, oh, am I going to see them tomorrow? They're dependable as much as we can be without being too, that they show up. And when we do show up, we show up together. Like we're really present. are really present, but everything else doesn't matter. It's just us. And then there's that feeling of like that first kiss feeling, that love feeling, that oh, just love, laughing and pleasuring ourselves. It's that feeling. And so I've actually created a playlist on Spotify that with songs that I've listened to with different people that have inspired me. And when I listen to it, I get that feeling.
Yeah, I
you
have
know,
noticed those songs.
and it's like, then you're like, oh my God. And like, but I'm making myself actually do that a little more often. Like I'm trying to, because we got to retrain the brain. We got to retrain our feeling. We got to retrain our body, right? So if I can get that, because I feel like when you're in that love state, that's when good shit's you're manifesting because your vibration's high, right?
Yes.
But when you're in a long-term relationship, of course it's not always be that high point. It's going to have these moments.
Yes.
So but how do you get that high moment without about forcing it to have the other person give it to you? And so if you can't make that high moment to yourself, then you've lost it. And so then you're depending on that other person to give you that moment. Yeah.
Yes.
And so that's where I feel like that's what I'm trying to nurture in myself right now, because it's a necessary part of my own professional, personal goals that I want to achieve. Because when I had, when there was this one particular, when I had this one lover in New York, I had just got my art studio. I had just started painting these baby paintings. I was working. I was making a lot of money. So the guy who wrote Tales of the City, Armistead Maupin, whatever, you need a hot job, a hot apartment, and a hot lover. And I had all three. When you have all three, things are going.
Made.
And so how do you have that hot lover energy when you're solo? And I think it's possible.
Yeah. No, you're making me think about the most devastating breakup I ever had. There were two, and but this one was that very short-lived relationship. And I had for a long time decided I didn't want to marry. I knew by then I didn't want to have kids. A bad relationship had ended, and he came in and wanted to be in a relationship and pursued me, and I knew him and we'd had a thing in the past. And so anyway, we were intoxicated with each other, but we also, I would say he was an actual soulmate or maybe a twin flame, but it was so activating that I suddenly it was like I went to a parallel universe where everything I'd ever thought of wanting as a girl, or like all the things I'd ever felt about love or whatever, were activated on the very highest level.
Yeah.
It was literally a cosmic experience where I kept thinking that it was like when you died, especially after I lost it, like you've died, gone back into the whole, you're part of the expansiveness of all the color and wideness of the universe. And then it ended and I was forced to be back on this planet, in this life, in this empty room. And it was so traumatic because it wasn't just about him. It was that he had given me access to life itself on such a larger, expansive level. And at the time, I did not believe that I would be able to recreate that in myself. I thought that he was the only way to experience that. And I kind of just became okay with, like, eventually, like, if you have to grieve a death or something, you're like, I just have to learn to live without. I have to learn to live in an ugly world. I have to learn to live with death. Like, that was good for me. But then slowly I began to just still hold on to, and I realized my mistake, right? And I began to try to nurture some of that hot lover energy, if you will, where with myself, and that like cosmic energy. And I started to realize I could get it in lots of different places. And to be fair, nowhere nearly as all at one time, all in one place, expansive. But everything is ephemeral until we enter.
Yep. When I ended the relationship with the man in New York, I wrote in my journal, being in love once means you can fall in love again,
Mm.
and being in love needs to happen often.
Mm.
And it, because what I was feeling was, I'm so glad I had an opportunity to feel that, to be that kind of, and it, and again, it didn't need it. That wasn't what I needed anymore. It didn't need to be, things need to, yeah. So, but doesn't mean the love wasn't there. Doesn't, and I wish I could help people who have to break up and just help them break up lovingly. Don't be mean about it. It sucks for everybody. Love changes.
Yeah.
Let it change. But we are very,
It is,
stubborn.
it is an oddity. I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense, but it is an oddity. Well, I want to touch on one last thing here, which is the sort of obvious question. Well, we'll go back to the concept of dying alone. But I think often, like, if I am not in a lifelong, for the rest of my life, relationship with somebody, who's going to be the one that plans my funeral? Who's going to get my stuff? Like, and also I think a lot about, like, I need to have money or a network or enough people who aren't gonna die off before me to, like, somehow make sure I'm okay. Like, who's gonna check on me in the nursing home? And, like, who's gonna make sure I can pay for it when I don't remember how to give them my card?
Yeah.
So how does that play out for you, or similar things of, like, the
Yeah.
future?
Yeah. I hope, I'm hoping that because more and more of us are talking about this, I hope that we are creating solutions for those as well. Because I don't really know what it looks like, because I don't have any money to invest in a property with somebody. Like, I don't have, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I can go up to someone and say, hey, do you want to go buy some land together?
Yeah.
Because I don't have that money, but you have some money, so let's use your money. I can offer you this, so that's one thing. I have that, is there's a, financial inequity, but that's one thing. So, and then, finding those, I would like to be able to share space with people,
Me too.
I mean, it doesn't have to just be all women. It just has to be all cool people. And it has to be, I don't know what that looks like. I know that I don't want, um, the idea of living in an over 55 community thing, that makes me, just because that's too suburbia for me, so that's not what, unless it was just, I don't know. Um, and so yeah, I really, I mean, who do I want to age with? And that's why I don't necessarily want to age with just one older person,
Yeah.
because that way, if I have to take care
You
of
might
you,
die off.
I'm not a caretaker.
Yeah.
I'm not a caretaker. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't, I mean, I could help. If you're sick, I can give you some stuff, but on a full-time job, I'm not, I don't think I can do it. So that's a really big question. That I think I don't have the answer for. I know that I'm thinking about it. I know that, it's all going to work out, because things always work out.
Mhm.
And I'm also, I will never be, I'm never going to be, this is one of your other podcasts I was listening to when you're talking to Shell. I liked how you had that conversation as well. Go listen to it. It's really good. um, but, how old do I want to be? How old do I want to age,
Mm.
And I, if I can't walk at, you know, at any age, if I'm like, if I can't fully function on my own, I don't know if I want to be alive.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I had one friend of mine a long time ago. We used to say, if I need you, come over with some Valium, some champagne, and I'll just drink a bunch of champagne and take some Valium and
I
go to
need a
sleep.
friend like that.
Because it's like,
Well,
I've seen these movies where people have died around friends.
yes.
I think it's so emotional.
I like
It's
those
so emotional,
movies.
because death is not sad. It's
Mhm.
emotional. It's one of
Mhm.
the emotions is sadness, but it's also love. Because
Mhm.
if you're that sad they're dying, you had
Mhm.
love, and that's
Mhm.
fucking awesome.
Mhm. And to help someone experience their own death in a
Yes.
way. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a I was just thinking about like where we're at in society, and a lot more people like
Yeah.
ourselves, and also different financial situations even for married people. And so I but there is this I don't know. I don't remember what culture it is. It's somewhere in Scandinavia, I think, where there is like this cliff that I think used to be, at least, like older folks would just eventually go to the cliff and they would choose to
Jump.
jump. And people just regularly kind of did that at some point, so they didn't burden the community, and because they didn't, they were
Right.
ready. And I kind of wish that we would, but when it's time for me, have figured out the cliff solution. I mean, it might be needed. I don't know.
Oh, I don't want to know. The idea of, personally, I don't want to know about falling and hitting and hurting.
No, not actual cliff. I mean, like the Valium and champagne solution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was like, your reaction was like, wait, you've taken a 180? And I'm like, what is so unappealing about this now?
Jump off a rocky cliff.
Would you like to drown or be smashed by rocks?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, okay.
Or maybe it was some area of water and it was like a cave situation. I'm going to soften the blow.
Okay, all right. So they went down to the beach
They
in
just
a cave
kind of go off
with their
and
bottle
they
of
never
champagne and some
really-
Valium, and the tide comes in and takes away their dead body.
Exactly.
I
There we
could
go.
do that.
That's what we
I
do.
would do that in a
That's
heartbeat.
what we do.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, did you
yeah.
have anything else that we should talk about?
No, I think we got to know each other a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We sure did.
Yeah, no, I think this is good. It's really good. And just to, I think the biggest thing that I've come out of all of this, and just even talking to you, it's like, just be okay with who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Fuck, why do we constantly have to like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay, you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is fucked up.
It's just us. We just lost everybody, okay? You killed the episode.
Yeah, drink your champagne with Valium while you're masturbating.
Okay, and that really is quite an interesting setup to a question I wanted to say. What would you give advice to women my age or younger or whatever who are out there who are considering an unpartnered life or who have been frustrated by trying partnerships?
It's like, really just, again, just trust yourself. Don't second guess yourself, and make the hard choices. Choosing to be single is just as hard as choosing to be in a relationship. So just pick which one you want to do, and if it's not, if something's not working out and whatever choice you do, you've got to figure out how to make it better. And it's all about you. It's about making that effort, and you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it alone, you don't.
And you shouldn't do it alone, whether you're partnered or not.
No, no. And I just wish everybody has a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll end on that.
On that.
Thank you so much, Joanne.
Thank you. This is awesome.